All right, everybody, this is Austin. This is my buddy James. He's visiting me in Thailand right now. James is my Muay Thai coach from back home, and he's known for some real heavy hands. He's going to teach us today what it takes to become a power puncher.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. I appreciate that. So a little bit about myself. I've been training Muay Thai now for about 24 years. I started when I was about 19, 20 years old. Started in Philly, and then now I'm about 44. So gives you a little bit of history.
It's got some good experience. So when James entered my life, he taught me what the difference was between a hobbyist and someone that actually wants to be a real fighter. And it's an important difference to know, especially if you're interested in fighting. So to give you a little indication, James, when we were training, he's the type of guy that hits like a truck, even if he's not trying to. I've held pads for him and I've sparred with him, and I can tell you that even though he holds back during sparring, he's still knocking people out left and right. For example, I've seen him just north of 170 pounds of the time knock out a 240-pound heavyweight with one punch through his headgear with 16-ounce gloves, which is already ridiculous. And I've also seen him with a left hook dislocate the jaw of another heavyweight, neither of which was he trying to hurt him. He's just a strong guy. So there's something to be learned here. Nice. Whew. Feeling good?
Yeah.
I missed him.
Thank you. So I guess some of the most fundamental things that I have to touch on, without the core foundation of having an actual healthy lifestyle, making sure the kind of calories you're getting in your body are healthy, good, high quality calories, and without having solid conditioning and a solid strength basis when it comes to your workouts, you're just never going to be able to be a heavy hitter. You have to have the conditioning, to be able to hit repeatedly hard on a consecutive basis, and without a strong conditioning program, which at the very basis starts with running. You have to run. If you want to do Muay Thai, you have to run. You got to run 4 to 6 miles multiple times a week. You need to be doing sprints. You need to be doing HIIT training. Another effective way to be able to get your conditioning in is CrossFit. But I would say if you're going to do any form of CrossFit, stay away from doing heavy Oli lifts with the CrossFit training. That's just a recipe for injury, I think. If you can do CrossFit but do more body building based workouts or deadlifts, things of that nature, that are no more than 70% of what your max is, that's a great way to be able to get in some conditioning if you solely don't want to just have to run. Cycling is also another good way to be able to do that, but without solid conditioning basis, you will never be able to consecutively hit somebody hard and effectively. You'll gas out really quick, and then they're going to own you.
All right, James, so you're talking about the fact that you need to have a good cardio base, you need to have a good strength base in general. Are there any particular exercises that you think translate well?
Yeah, so I think at the very minimum, you want to have some of the core compound lifts as part of your workout routine. Deadlift, back squat, overhead press with a barbell. All these movements also should never really be done on a machine. You can use a machine as an accessory exercise, but if you're going to do these lifts to actually become strong, that has to be done with either dumbbells or barbells. Especially if they're going to be heavier lifts, it should be done with barbells. These things will directly make you stronger, make your entire body stronger, teach you how to control your body in a very effective way when it comes to using heavy weight. And these things will help you significantly when you want to be able to transfer the power from the ground to your punch.
Yeah, so one thing, he told me that same thing some years back, and I started taking that advice into account, and adding in some of these compound lifts, and then things like, he was going to talk on kettlebells a little bit, that sort of thing. What I noticed is it gives you really, really good core strength and connectivity to have to stabilize all that weight that's going all these various directions, and that translates well to that transference of power.
I can completely agree with that. And then another thing that you can do that's very effective as well is a variety of different kettlebell exercises with heavier kettlebells. These are things that you can easily research on YouTube with a quick Google search. If you add that into your workout routine, it will significantly help you to be able to control your body with heavy weight, which will help to teach you how to transfer that power again into your punching.
Cool. So what are your thoughts on nutrition? You mentioned eating well and that sort of thing.
Nutrition is a key foundation. So nutrition and sleep, these two things go hand in hand. If you don't have these two as your basis, you will never really make any forward progress, and you'll also not have the gas tank that you need when it comes, because you can do all the conditioning, all the cardio you want, but if you're not well hydrated, you're not putting in healthy food on a regular basis, the majority of your meals, 90% of what you're eating that goes in your body should be healthy, should be homemade, should be something that you know is good for you. Fruits, vegetables, grains, meats, these things are fundamental and important. I'm not saying that you can't go out and eat. I'm not saying that you can't eat a pint of ice cream. I'm not saying you can't do any of these things, because I do that as well, but 5 to 6 days a week, I'm making my food at home. I know what I'm putting in my body. I'm staying well hydrated. Stay away from the alcohol, obviously. It's fine to be able to drink, but everything in moderation. If you're drinking on a regular basis, or you're working out hard all week, and then you go out and you're a young guy or a girl and you party on the weekend, you're kind of throwing away everything you did during the week.
Gotcha. And along those same lines, one of the things we were talking about is, so you've got to have the fitness, you've got to have the nutrition, and one of the things that he's seen and one of the things that I've seen is people that have too much of a caloric deficit. So they do plenty of workouts, but they don't have enough to properly recover, and they end up not only a little bit light, but they end up a little bit weak at the end of the day, because they can't put enough mass and they can't put enough muscle and energy into their motions.
That's very true. To be a strong, powerful puncher, the reality is you do have to have enough muscle mass and enough strength to be able to put that power through your body to your opponent. So that is something to think about. And another thing you may want to think about too is your fighting style, your fighting type. And also how well you personally can take a hit as well. Because a lot of times when you're putting a lot of power into punches, a lot of times you're going to take some punches back. And if you already know you're the kind of person that you can have your bell rung easily, or you can take a couple hits and it'll kind of deter you or make you start holding back, you may want to rethink your fighting type. It's good to be able to hit hard, but also sometimes it's not everything. So for me, because I know myself well enough in my fighting style, I know I can hit hard, and I know that as soon as I go into a fight, the sooner that I can lay a couple hard hits onto somebody, the sooner I can set the tempo for the kind of fight that I want to be able to have myself, because I want to set the precedence. Because typically if you hit somebody once or twice rather fast into the fight, and they know you have a decent amount of power, it's going to change their game plan. Whatever they thought they were going to bring into the fight, it changes that pretty significantly, especially if the person's not used to getting hit that hard as well. At that point, you can completely reset somebody, then throw them completely off their game, and at that point, you have them in the palm of your hand.
All right. So we talked nutrition, we talked fitness, we talked recovery a little bit. What about the technical aspect? What do you do with your body to hit hard?
For me, I believe everything starts with your footwork and your feet, and how you can transfer the power that you're generating through the ground, through your legs, through your hips, through your upper body, torso, and then finally at the end of the punch. So until you can get that right, you're really never going to be able to hit too hard. I think I see a lot of people doing is when they're first learning, they're really just focused on their arms. And they think that all the power is coming from the muscles that are in their arms and shoulders, which some of your power is absolutely going to come from, your biceps, triceps, the extension of your arm, your shoulders, your upper body. But the majority of the power you're going to have does come through your feet, through the ground. And until you get your footwork right and the power transfer from your legs and your hips right, you're just never going to be able to hit hard or hit hard consecutively. And really, that's the key, is that you want to drill all the small things, especially like footwork and just your basic core punches, your jabs and your cross, over and over and over again. I can't stress that, enough. And also breaking things down very slowly and making it so that it's really just muscle memory. Because you can take something that somebody teaches you and you can do it, one class, maybe 2 or 3, but still really in the end, that's not really ingraining it into the core of your being. So that when you are actually fighting somebody, this is what actually comes out. Because once the fists start flying, once you get your bell rung a little bit, you're always going to revert back to your base programming.
Yeah,
that's subconscious. If your base programming is garbage, that's what you're going to revert to, is garbage. So I can't stress enough to take the things that you're learning, whether it be from Austin, myself, or any other person that you're getting information from, and really slow it down. Really take the time to do things very slow, very methodically. Record yourself. Have another person that understands the technique that you're trying to learn. Really sit there and break down the things that you're doing. That's, to be honest, probably one of the most important things you could do learning any technique, is to really either have an effective, high quality partner. I can't stress that enough. Like finding somebody that actually gives a shit, that wants to be there, that actually cares about you learning and coaching you. Finding a person that's gonna do that, and finding somebody who's gonna be real for, to tell you the truth. Like, hey, what you're doing is wrong. You need to fix that. Like, they don't care about hurting your feelings because they're actually there to see you get some personal growth out of whatever's happening. So the way he trained me back in the day, which is still what I carry on years later, is we would take a concept and we would drill that for about a month. Usually it's almost the same way that the Olympic lifters periodize their workouts so they don't plateau, right? So we had 1 month, for example, we worked just what I call the slingshot technique, which is a way of stretching your fascia and releasing the punch with a little more snap and elasticity at the end. Is that something you like? Pretty accurate way to describe that.
So how do you describe the chamber we were talking about earlier?
So I think for me too, a lot of people, you don't want to telegraph what you're doing, because if I'm going to go throw a right cross and I really cock back like this, you know that I'm going to throw a right cross. However, if I'm just here and I just throw it straight out, I'm not going to have any power. Sure, you can, if you have enough weight behind you, if you're 220 pounds or you're 190 and you're super solid, you can be here and you can just throw a right cross and it will have some power, but it's never going to be like what you're completely capable of doing. So you have to have the ability to be here, but you have to chamber just enough, because your body is like a rubber band. You're compressing this spring, and when you compress it just the right way, and if you know yourself and you know how much you need to compress yourself to be able to get that energy transfer, that's really what you're looking for in the end, especially when you're going to hit somebody really, if you're going for a knockout, if you're really trying to ring somebody's bell, if you're really trying to make a point with your punching, you have to have some sort of chamber to what's happening with your punches.
Yeah. All right. So along this, do you want to demonstrate a couple of punches, see what you're talking about? Do you want to kind of break down, if you're throwing the right hand, for example, how do you put power into it?
So for me, obviously you want to have good footwork. You want to have good foot positioning. For me, when it starts with the feet, I typically kind of like to be almost in like a running / sprinting stance. I know a lot of people will have their back foot kind of at almost a 45 or 90 degree angle. I'm not a big fan of that myself. I feel that if I am kind of almost like you jump in the air, like you feel comfortable when you land, your knees should be bent slightly, both feet should be pointing towards your opponent and your target, because your hips are almost squared into them. Also off that, you can check easily. So you have the ability to check your opponent easily. If you start blading yourself, which can be okay for boxing, but we're also talking more Muay Thai, and you're gonna wind up taking a lot of leg kicks that way. So typically both feet towards your opponent, hips squared in, knees bent. You want equal balance over top of your feet too. You don't want to be too far forward. You don't want to be too far back. You're not going to be able to transfer the energy very well. So typically I'm going to throw a right cross. First thing I'm going to do is a slight chamber. where I'm gonna bring my right shoulder back slightly, and I'm gonna dip into my back right leg. So you'll see my knee drop slightly. Once that happens, I know I've chambered myself. I can feel my body. A little bit more weight is on my back leg, but it's not all of my weight. It should still, this is probably like a 60-40 kind of a feel.
Okay.
Just enough. Once that happens, push through your back right foot. Right arm starts to extend. As that extends, my hip and the power is coming through my right foot, and my hip starts to rotate around. As my hip starts to rotate around, start to release the right hand. The right hand comes through, connects with the pad, returns as quick as possible. So I'm here, boom, chamber slightly. You will be telegraphing just a little bit, so it has to be fast. They're gonna know it's coming. But like I repeated multiple times, if you don't have any kind of chamber, sure, you might be able to get a knockout punch if you hit him right on the button, or your opponent has a glass chin, or a multitude of other things. However, you do need to have that power. So I'm here, hips are squared up, chamber slightly, power's coming through my right leg. As I come through, I'm pushing my hip forward. As my hip pushes forward, it releases my shoulder. Shoulder comes through, hits the pad, immediately come back. A lot of people, I see they have this issue when they start throwing really hard hits. They're out here, boom, they throw super hard, they drop their hand down, or they think that they're like trying to push all the way through the pad. When I think about hitting really hard, I think I'm hitting the pad and I'm coming back. So you can think about going all the way through your opponent, but you don't want to overextend. So if I'm hitting Austin, if I'm going for his nose, I'm thinking my target is actually kind of where his ears would be almost.
That answers
like
my next question, yeah.
Like the inside of his head. So, but I don't want to go all the way through. So I'm not trying to punch and be all the way back here, because what happens? You get completely overextended. If I'm completely overextended, he slips this, I'm just done. I'm done. He's gonna throw a hook, he's gonna liver shot me, my game is over. Really being able to transfer your weight through your feet, but really the rotation in your hip is what really brings a lot of the power around too. Like I keep saying, your body is like a rubber band, where you're taking that band, you're stretching it out, you're giving it the power, and you're releasing it. But to release the band effectively, your hip has to rotate through. It's the same with kicking. If you see somebody and they're kicking and they're doing this, they're not bringing their hip through. But if you bring your hip through and turn it over, you get that power that will come through. Also too, you'll be able to like really just throw the weight and the power. You can do the same with your punching. So if you're here and that comes all the way through, your hip is really the crucial part of your body that's helping to transfer that energy, the kinetic energy from the ground to the pad. Okay. Can't stress enough too, you need to make sure that when you're doing these drills, that you're doing them nice and slow. So the first time you're doing it, you really want to think about, okay, hey, I'm here, compressing slightly, chambering what I'm doing. I got about 60% of my weight now on my back right foot. As I come through, transfer, hip pivoting it around, arm coming out, look at my back foot, see how my heel is up. All the weight has been effectively transferred through. But also too, I'm not leaning too far forward. If you lean too far forward, you're just putting yourself off balance. Somebody's gonna sweep you, they're gonna take advantage of the situation. They could even just give you a simple push out of the way. Push, return a kick. You know, you don't wanna be left in this position where you're overextending. Everything needs to come from a natural, neutral position. That's where also learning your range. A lot of times you might need to sit there and work on your range with the bag or with your pad holder. I can't stress that enough too. It's your pad holder, because you get a lot of people that they'll be in here, they'll be jammed up, but instead of your pad holder correcting you, the pad holder corrects themselves, which is not what you want. So if I'm here and I'm jammed up and you don't have a very good pad holder, he's just gonna move back for you, or she's gonna move back for you. And that's not what you want.
That's a great point.
You want somebody who's going to correct you. Like, hey, you're too close, back up, back up, back up.
Yeah, so you're jammed up, you're jammed up. Hey, there you go. Nice.
You want to be able to create the distance yourself. Especially if, you know, for me, I feel like I have a little bit longer arms. That's an advantage for me, you know? I don't want to, like, you know, I like to get in close, and I like throwing a good hook, a good uppercut, but a lot of strength and power from being tall. If I can get to his face from here, boom, I have a lot of a range, you know? It's good, and as soon as I can move back out of that, I can throw something really hard and be in and out before he can even return something.
Yeah, all great points. All right. Thank you for your time, buddy.
Yes, sir. Always appreciate it.
Yeah.